Chapter 135, The Fierce Battle on the Road. This chapter is updated by Novels.pl. Zhang Shaxiu was so astonished that he tried to look for Liu Quanshan all over, but he found nothing at all. Perhaps his ninth brother had put him in the belly of the two-headed blood lion. Zhang Shaxiu stared at the two-headed blood lion's belly and then looked at Zhang Yuochen, finding that he was quite composed. He made up his mind to request that his ninth brother impart him with the secret skill. When they returned to Yanwu City, clip-clop, the sound of iron heels hitting the ground grew closer. Soon after, a group of men in black rushed toward Zhang Yuochen and Zhang Shaxiu. They wore golden masks and rode on tall antelope horses. There were 21 people. All of them were masters of martial arts and they carried bows, crossbows, and swords on their back. There was blood on their bodies. The golden masks on their faces seemed extremely grisly. They all stared at Zhang Yuochen and Zhang Shaxiu. In an instant, the atmosphere on the road became somber and desolate. Among them stood a tall man in black who glared at both Zhang Yuochen and Zhang Shaxiu. He said in a cold voice, "Who are you? Why are you here?" Zhang Shaxiu seemed to fear nothing. He straightened his back and looked down the man in black. Loftily, he said, "Since it was my family who built this way, why shouldn't I be here?" The leader of the men in black asked coldly, "Have you seen a severely injured middle-aged man?" "No." Zhang Yuochen responded calmly. Zhang Yuochen could feel the strong aura on him, an aura that was similar to General Hong Yi. The cultivation of the man in black was likely to be in the Earth realm. If they were hunting Liu Quanshan, then he'd better not bother them. After looking at Zhang Yuochen and Zhang Shaxiu from head to toe, the leader of the men in black waved to his followers and said, "Let's go." Zhang Yuochen and Zhang Shaxiu both sighed slightly with relief. At this moment, one of the men in black shouted, "Chief, there's blood on the ground." The leader immediately looked down, finding that there was fresh blood on the ground. He gazed coldly at Zhang Yuochen. Fight. Since the matter had been brought to light, Zhang Yuochen acted decisively. He wielded the flash-shining sword towards the one with the highest cultivation. Zhang Shaxiu instantly took out his death scythe and rushed toward the men in black. He seemed corpulent yet moved very swiftly. He killed 3 people in a row. "It's really troublesome." Tearing a piece of paper out of the book, Blackie grasped it with its claws and infused genuine qi into it. A gentle light glowed on the surface of the paper. PFFFT. The paper, sharper than a knife, flew out and cut the head of man at the initial stage of the Black Realm right off. Zhang Yuochen exploded his strongest power. He pulled out his arms and with the sword in hand slashed the leader's head. "You are really good at hiding your strength, kid. Where did you hide that injured man?" The leader took a purple knife from his back and successfully blocked Zhang Yuochen's attack as he put his knife before him. Boom! His horse couldn't withstand the strong power. With 4 broken legs, it wailed and fell off the cliff. Seeing that the man had blocked his attack, Zhang Yuochen narrowed his eyes and said, "You really are a master of the Earth realm. In Yanwu Commandery, warriors like you would have a well-known title." "Who are you?" Boom! Zhang Yuochen again executed another sword cut. With the power of the Inscription of Ice series, the sword carried cold air. It moved toward the leader, frosting his clothes. The leader moved 3 steps backward. He stared at Zhang Yuochen with surprise. He wouldn't have expected that a teenager would have such strong power, no weaker than himself. After all, he possessed this cultivation after practicing for more than 40 years. How old was the boy? "Little boy, who are you indeed?" The man in black used the strength of his wrists, and gave out a stream of dense genuine qi from his body, knocking Zhang Yuochen back. Zhang Yuochen secretly released his space domain and covered the man in it. He asked, "Why do you want to kill Liu Quanshan? You really did rescue him." "Ahem, little boy, you're in trouble now. You'd better hand him to me and I'll let you die decently," the man said, standing by the cliff with a knife in his hands. "If I'm right, you're at the initial stage of the Earth Real," Zhang Yuochen said. In Yanwu Commandery, possessing the cultivation of the Earth realm could absolutely be regarded as a formidable martial arts master which could build his family or a suzerain. If he was in the army, he could be a general. The man laughed. "Are you scared?" Zhang Yuochen shook his head and said, "You can't kill me with your cultivation." "How conceited you are! A master of the Earth realm can't kill you? Who do you think you are, a warrior of Division Profound?" the man asked. Zhang Yuochen didn't respond further. He activated all 14 inscriptions carved on the flash-shining sword, displayed his footwork and attacked the man. Sacred guiding sword. He wielded his sword and made a 7-meter sword breath, leaving a long sword path on the ground. The man wasn't expecting Zhang Yuochen to stay and fight, instead he attacked him actively. Good. The leader grasped the purple knife and activated the inscriptions on it with his genuine chi. Streams of purple light appeared on the blade. Boom! He broke the sword breath with just one move. He trod 3 steps forward and left 3 deep footprints on the ground. When he stepped out his last step, he flew upward and slashed towards Zhang Yuochen. His knife contained the power of thunderbolts. Streams of light appeared in the air around him and gathered to the blade. Zhang Yuochen couldn't retreat because there was a cliff behind him. Sacred Plenilune Sword. The flash-shining sword drew a circle in the air. With bright sword light, the sword circle suspended over Zhang Yuochen, looking like a moon. His sword collided violently with the purple knife. The loud sound spread out and echoed in the mountains for a long time. Crash! The stone under his feet shattered. Rubble crashed down the cliff and fell into the steep abyss. Swish! The man quickly changed his move and turned 360 degrees in midair, executing 3 moves in an instant. Every move was extremely powerful with the power of thunderbolts in it. Even a rock wall could be smashed to bits. Zhang Yuochen could only defend. He executed the shadow of the royal wind dragon and flew swiftly on the narrow mountain pass, trying his best to avoid face-to-face attack. Master of the Earth Realm is really powerful. I can combat with a warrior at the initial stage of the Earth Realm now, but it's hard for me to defeat them. Zhang Yuochen thought secretly. Luckily, the speed between Zhang Yuochen and the man was nearly the same. If it was Sai Kongxiu who fought against the man, he would probably be defeated in 10 moves. How strange it is. The boy hasn't been defeated yet and we've fought for over 50 moves. Could it be possible that he's a warrior of Division Profound? The man felt that things had gone wrong and eventually realized that this boy was not to be trifled with. He was not a warrior of the Earth Realm. Yet, his combat forces were no weaker than a warrior of the Earth Realm. Only warriors of the Division Profound had such ability. There were only 18 warriors of Division Profound in the whole Yunwu Commandery and the youngest one was 35 years old. To be a warrior of Division Profound in his teens? How gifted he was. Triple Magic Sword. The man executed a low-class spiritual broadsword technique. His momentum was greatly increased, and the knife move became 3 shadows when it was slashed out. Moreover, the purple knife in his hand slashed toward Zhang Yuochen's neck. The martial technique of the spiritual stage displayed by a warrior of the Earth Realm was absolutely impressive. It was beyond comparison with their warrior of the Black Realm. Before the knife energy slashed Zhang Yuochen's body, his clothes were torn by the invisible power, leaving several gashes. Sacred Wind and Rain Sword. Zhang Yuochen suddenly flew upward and exploded the sword comprehension at the peak of sword following the mind. His sword was moving on the blade of the purple knife and stabbed toward the man's heart. The man's countenance changed greatly. He exclaimed, "The advanced stage of sword following the mind? No, it's the peak level of sword following the mind. How could it be?" Generally speaking, even among myths of martial arts of the Heaven Realm, only a very few of them could practice to the peak level of sword following the mind. It could be said that this boy was a monster, who had practiced the sword technique to such a realm. When he was at the Black Realm, Zhang Yuochen hadn't shown his real strength beforehand. He had maintained the intermediate stage of sword following the mind when he executed the sword technique. He would not expose his ace in the hole unless there was no other way. Since he had exposed it, the man must die. The man decisively abandoned the purple knife, hoping to avoid Zhang Yuochen's killing blow. But he still underestimated the power, when sword movements at the peak level of sword following the mind had carried. He had moved backward half a step and the flash-shining sword had already stabbed into his heart. TCH. The point of the sword thrust out from the man's back, leaving blood falling down to the ground. Looking at the sword that had pierced his heart, the man felt the coldness of the sword. He clenched his teeth and shouted, "Then, let's perish together." Gathering all his strength, The man rushed to Zhang Yuochen, trying to push him off the cliff. Zhang Yuochen's facial expression altered slightly. He hadn't expected that a warrior of the Earth Realm would have such tenacious vitality. Even with his heart pierced, he still had the strength to fight back. Ninth brother. Zhang Shaxiu's face became serious and he rushed toward the cliff immediately. At this moment, Zhang Yuochen transformed to an illusory image. He flew upward from the cliff and landed on the ground firmly with his bloody sword in hand. Zhang Yuochen let out a long sigh of relief. He said, "It was too dangerous. Luckily, I practiced the shadow of the Royal Wind Dragon. Otherwise, I would have died with him. I can't be so careless in the future." Thinking about the martial technique that Zhang Yuochen had displayed on the challenging platform with such amazing speed, Zhang Shaxiu secretly thought in his heart, "That should be the shadow of the Royal Wind Dragon. I have to find an opportunity and ask him to teach me. As long as I learn that martial technique which focuses on speed, it will be hard for warriors of the Earth Realm to kill me."